What would have happened to humanity if the fate of empires had been decided by a randomly drawn tarot card? This isn't an attempt to rewrite history, but imagine if it had worked that way. Classic tarot cards appeared in Italy around the 15th century. The oldest known deck is the Visconti Sforza, dated to about 1428. It was commissioned by influential Milanese families as a prestigious courtly game. Ancient civilizations didn't know tarot, but they understood the need for signs. In Babylon, eclipses were interpreted as warnings of a ruler's downfall. In ancient Rome, before battles, they observed how sacred chickens ate. If the birds refused, the attack was postponed. In Greece, the Oracle of Delphi could influence decisions about war or alliances. In China, the emperor consulted the Book of Changes, casting hexagrams before major reforms. Among the Aztecs, priests interpreted calendar signs before sacrifices. Humans have always looked for a sign before making big decisions, because when thousands of lives are at stake, rational thinking alone doesn't feel like enough. We also want the reassurance that we're not making a mistake. But what if the tarot system, with its archetypes, the emperor, the high priestess, the wheel of fortune, death, had emerged much earlier and become part of political culture? For example, King Solomon entered history as a symbol of wisdom. Two women once came to him with a living child, each claiming to be the mother. Solomon ordered the baby to be cut in half. One woman agreed, the other begged to save the child. Through their reactions and his deep understanding of human psychology, he identified the true mother. But what if, before making his decision, he had drawn the Fool? The Fool symbolizes a new path, freedom, openness to possibility, risk, and trust in the unknown. Taken literally, Solomon might have said, a new path means freedom from attachment. He could have suggested that both women give up the child as part of letting go of the old story, entrusting the baby to the temple and starting new lives. Or he might have declared that the child would choose her mother when she grew up. History might have remembered him not as Solomon the Wise, but as Solomon the Fool. Or take Alexander the Great. In 334 BCE, he crossed the Hellespont and launched his campaign against the Persian Empire, a small army against a vast state. He won at Granicus, Issus, and Gaugamela, creating an empire stretching from Greece to India. But imagine that before crossing, he drew the Hermit, a card of solitude, inner search, and spiritual growth. It suggests withdrawal from the world and focus on inner truth. If taken literally, history might not have gained a conqueror, but a wandering philosopher who laid down his sword and headed for the mountains to discover himself. Instead of an empire, perhaps a school of meditative strategy would have emerged. The world would have lost a general and gained an ascetic. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, breaking the law and starting a civil war. His "the die is cast" became a symbol of the point of no return. But imagine that instead of casting lots, he drew the Hanged Man, a card of pause, reevaluation, and shifting perspective. He might have stopped, sat on the riverbank, and said, maybe the problem isn't the Senate, maybe it's my ego. He could have gone on a strategic retreat, worked through limiting beliefs, released the need to control everything, and returned to Rome not as a dictator, but as a transformational leadership coach. But as we know, history chose a different storyline. Even in hunter tribes before a hunt, a shaman might have laid out cards. The chariot, we attack at dawn while the wind favors us. But then the magician appears, a card of creativity and potential. So the entire tribe paints affirmations instead of searching for food. Of course, all of this sounds absurd, but why do people, today and thousands of years ago, turn to signs of fate? Neurobiology offers an answer. The brain craves certainty. In states of uncertainty, the amygdala, the fear center, activates, cortisol levels rise, and our ability to perform complex analysis declines. Physiologically, we're uncomfortable living in "I don't know." The brain perceives uncertainty almost as a threat. A symbolic system reduces that tension. It creates a framework in which chaos feels structured. When a sign appears, an explanation appears, and a sense of control, even an illusory one, lowers anxiety and allows us to act more confidently. Cognitive psychology explains this through projection and the Barnum effect. When general statements feel deeply personal, we don't receive answers from the outside. We recognize in the symbol a position we've already almost chosen. The card becomes a mirror, not the source of the decision. In ancient societies, this also had a political function. A decision supported by a sign was easier for the community to accept. Responsibility dissolved. It wasn't the ruler who decided. That's just how it fell. We turn to signs because they help us endure uncertainty. They transform a personal choice into the right choice, because the scariest thing for a human being isn't making a mistake. The scariest thing is taking full responsibility for it. And maybe our true empire and real maturity begins not when the right card appears, but when we admit this is our choice, and its consequences are ours too.